This is a tooth. It came out of the Siberian permafrost, and it is older than your species, older than any human being who has ever lived. When this animal was chewing grass on the frozen steppe, Homo sapiens did not exist yet. 1.2 million years. And locked inside it, scientists found something they had been told, for decades, could not possibly still be there. And when they finally placed it on the mammoth family tree, it didn't fit where anyone expected. It belonged to a mammoth that on paper shouldn't exist. This is the story of 4 times the mammoth's own genetic code broke the rules, and what it's now letting scientists build. Start with the record itself. Before 2021, the oldest DNA anyone had ever sequenced came from a horse, around 700,000 years old. That was considered close to the theoretical limit. DNA is fragile. The moment an animal dies, its genetic code starts snapping into shorter and shorter fragments. Go far enough back, and there's simply nothing left to read. So when a team led by geneticist Love Delaine pulled 3 mammoth molars out of the Siberian permafrost, expectations were low. 2 of them shattered the record anyway, roughly 1 million years old each. But the third one nearly doubled it, 1,200,000 years old. The oldest DNA ever recovered from anything. Full stop. They named it Krestovka, after the river near where it was found. And here's where it stops being a record and starts being a mystery. Because when they tried to slot Krestovka into the mammoth family tree, it wouldn't fit. It kept flickering. Sometimes the data made it look like a woolly mammoth, sometimes like a Colombian mammoth. At first, the result looked like something had gone wrong. Contamination, damaged data, something in the analysis. It hadn't gone wrong. Krestovka was a completely unknown lineage of mammoth, a ghost, one nobody knew had ever existed, revealed only by DNA inside a single tooth. And that ghost solved a mystery that had bugged scientists for years. The Colombian mammoth, the giant that roamed North America, had a genome that never quite made sense. Now they knew why. The Colombian mammoth was a hybrid, roughly half its ancestry traced back to the woolly mammoth, and the other half to Krestovka, a lineage that had split off more than 1 million years earlier. 2 kinds of mammoth, separated by over 1 million years of evolution, met and could still have young together. That offspring became an entire species, a ghost lineage, hidden for 1 million years, found in a tooth. That's beat 1. It gets stranger. Fast forward almost the entire history of the species. The mammoths are nearly gone, and the very last ones on Earth are stranded here. Wrangel Island, off the Siberian coast. When sea levels rose about 10,000 years ago, the ocean cut this island off from the mainland, with a tiny population of mammoths trapped on it. How tiny? The genome suggests the whole island population may have started from as few as 8 animals. 8. From that, they grew to maybe 200 or 300, and they held on for another 6,000 years after mammoths had vanished everywhere else on the planet. Now, here's the story everyone expected the DNA to tell. 8 founders means brutal inbreeding. Inbreeding means a genome rotting from the inside, a genomic meltdown, until the population collapses under the weight of its own bad mutations. Clean, tragic, tidy. For years, that was the leading theory. In 2024, a team read the genomes across those 6,000 years, in sequence, and the tidy story fell apart. Yes, they were inbred. Yes, genetic diversity slowly bled away, but the population was stable. It wasn't spiraling toward collapse. Even stranger, the DNA showed the mammoths were actively purging their most dangerous mutations. The worst genetic errors were so harmful the animals carrying them simply didn't survive to pass them on. So those errors kept getting weeded out of the gene pool for 6,000 years. The population that was supposed to be genetically doomed had remained demographically stable for thousands of years, right up until the end. So what killed them? The honest answer from the scientists themselves: we don't know. The genetics suggest they weren't inevitably destined to die out. It looks like something sudden, a disease, a single harsh season, one bad event that wiped out a small, stable population that might otherwise have kept going. As Dalin's team put it, if that one random event hadn't happened, we might still have mammoths today. Sit with that. The last mammoths didn't lose to their own DNA. Whatever finally killed them remains a mystery, and it may have been a sudden ecological or disease-related event. And their genome is now a warning label for every endangered species we're trying to save right now. Because these inbreeding effects, the DNA shows, can linger for over 6,000 years. Everything so far has been about DNA, the master blueprint. But DNA only tells you what an animal could do. It doesn't tell you what any given cell was actually doing when the animal was alive. For that, you need a different molecule, RNA. RNA is the working copy, the messages a cell sends when it switches specific genes on. And RNA is far more chemically fragile than DNA. It's single-stranded, and it degrades fast, which made its survival across tens of thousands of years, in a form we could actually recover and sequence, seem extraordinarily unlikely. Ancient DNA? Maybe. Ancient RNA from an Ice Age animal? Forget it. Meet Yuka, a juvenile woolly mammoth, frozen in Siberian permafrost for around 40,000 years, so well preserved that the muscle tissue was still intact. And in 2025, scientists announced they'd pulled readable RNA out of Yuka's muscle, the oldest RNA ever recovered, by tens of thousands of years, and the first ever from a mammoth. A molecule considered extraordinarily fragile, preserved for 40 millennia. And because RNA captures what genes were active, it gave scientists something DNA never could: a snapshot of which genes were switched on in Yuka's preserved muscle. The active genes were the ones governing muscle contraction and the cell's response to stress, consistent with earlier evidence that Yuka was attacked by predators shortly before death. They were reading gene activity frozen in place, 40,000 years later. And then, the twist nobody saw coming. For years, based on the body, Yuka was assumed to be female. The genetic evidence in this study said otherwise. Yuka was male. They didn't just recover the impossible molecule. They used it to correct what we thought we knew about the animal itself. So we can read million-year-old DNA. We can pull impossible RNA out of the ice. But reading an extinct animal's genes is one thing. Changing the genes of a living animal is something else entirely. And that's where the story stops being archaeology and starts becoming biotechnology. Which leads to the question this whole channel keeps circling back to. If we can read the mammoth's code, can we write it back? In early 2025, the company Colossal Biosciences produced a striking proof of concept. Not a mammoth, a mouse. Here's what actually happened, because the honest version matters. Colossal's team analyzed dozens of mammoth genomes, spanning specimens from a few thousand to over 1 million years old, to pin down which genes gave mammoths their cold-weather look. Then they took an ordinary mouse and edited 7 of those genes at once. One edit switched off a gene called FGF5, which controls hair length. The mice grew coats up to 3 times longer than normal. Other edits changed hair texture, giving them woolly, wavy fur and curled whiskers. Another tweaked the pigment gene, MC1R, for that golden, mammoth-like color. The result was a mouse, expressing several traits inspired by the mammoth's winter coat, designed on a computer from the DNA of animals dead for tens of thousands of years, and made real. Now, the honest caveats, because this is where hype videos lie to you. This is a mouse, not a mammoth. A mammoth would need vastly more, and far more complex edits. In an elephant, an animal with a 2-year pregnancy. At the time, the researchers hadn't even tested whether these mice were actually more cold tolerant. They just looked the part. And the animal Colossal is aiming for wouldn't be a resurrected mammoth, so much as a gene-edited elephant built to carry mammoth traits. But as a proof that you can take genes read out of ancient DNA and successfully write them into a living animal, it worked. The blueprint isn't just readable anymore, it's editable. Step back and look at the 4 things in this video. DNA older than our species, that revealed a mammoth nobody knew existed. A doomed population that turned out not to be doomed by its genes at all. A molecule that wasn't supposed to survive a single day, read after 40,000 years. And ancient genes, rewritten into a living animal. Every one of those was, at some point, filed under "shouldn't be possible." One after another, the mammoth's own code has been quietly deleting that word. Which leaves one honest, open question. We can read the mammoth. We can, in pieces, rewrite it. The line between reading an extinct animal and remaking one is thinner than it has ever been in the history of life on Earth. I've got a full video on exactly that. How close Colossal actually is, and where the science stops and the marketing begins. It's on screen now. I'll see you in it.